The controversial fetal heartbeat bill could cost the state of Georgia thousands of jobs and billions of dollars. This is companies like Netflix, Disney, and NBC Universal are threatening to pull the plug on film production in the Peach State. Eric Alvarez is on your side tonight with the impact.
The movie Avengers Endgame was produced in Georgia. It's made more than $2.5 billion worldwide, part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, a series of films that has invested millions of dollars in the Peach State.
Infinity War brought over $182 million to Georgia's economy and paid Georgia workers $65 million in wages. The films are also giving local actors like Larry Fleming big opportunities, even in small roles. Fleming appeared as an extra in Avengers Endgame.
And I'm not in there very long. If you blink, you probably miss me, but I got to work with Michael Douglas, Captain America Chris, he was also in that scene.
But now, Disney, which owns the MCU, is threatening to shut down production in the Peach State because of the controversial fetal heartbeat bill. Netflix, Lionsgate, NBC Universal, and Warner Media are taking similar stances as Disney. Fleming calls it a complicated issue and tells First Coast News other states are passing similar laws. If the studios and actors leave Georgia, it won't stop the momentum, but it will hurt the local industry.
It's very concerning.
Jacksonville native Jay Wells Jr. landed a role as a stunt performer in Black Panther after moving to Georgia's movie capital, Atlanta.
It would be a mighty blow to the people that work here, and that would greatly reduce our opportunity to find work.
If Disney and the other companies do pull out of Georgia, the economic impact on the state's movie industry could reach into the billions of dollars. Not just in Atlanta, where many of the blockbusters are made, but also on the Golden Isles, places like Brunswick and Jekyll Island, which provided beautiful backdrops for dozens of films. Like Anchorman 2, The Legend of Bagger Vance,
Brothers and Sisters,
and X-Men First Class.
The Golden Isles Convention and Visitors Bureau says its primary industry is tourism, but says the film industry brings between $1 and $6 million into the local economy every year. Eric Alvarez, First Coast News, on your side.